welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I'm your host, Graveyard, joined not as usual with my Austrian producer. He's still recovering, so hopefully he'll be back here with us in about a week or two, pending everything that's going on there. But I am pleased to welcome our guest for tonight. She has so many accolades, probably the most awarded person we've actually had on the show. But she's a filmmaker, humanitarian, Emmy-winning, Oscar-nominated producer who co-founded the IEG Group and has works including Slash Party, Smiley, Red Lights, Clean Air, Very Bad Things, and the soon-to-be released The Haunting in Wicker Park. Please welcome to the Void, Cindy Cowan.
Hi, how are you guys?
Oh, it's like I said, for a Wednesday, pretty good. This is why I do the show. It's kind of like my way of saying, hey, the week's halfway done. I can start focusing on next week's show and the weekend and everything like that.
Yep.
How are you doing?
Yep. It's all good. I feel you. Hump days are good for something.
Yeah, they are. It's it works out for me. So like I said, I look forward to every Wednesday just because it's just like, all right, finally, my passion, my hobby, in interviewing people like you. So Cindy, welcome. And before we kind of get into meat potatoes here, I like to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, sure.
And I know we talked about in other interviews that, with let's say The Haunting in Wicker Park, that you kind of like that genre and really true story-based things. So you consider yourself like a horror fan overall then?
I'm definitely a horror fan. I'm a horror fan as long as it's based on real life horror, grounded horror. Can't say that I'm into the slasher movies, but really scary movies, yeah, I love. That's something that I can relate to.
What would you say your the best one in your opinion is then?
There's so many. You probably wouldn't put The Shining in there, and I would. Silence of the Lambs. Those are the kind of movies that I really like. The thriller horror of it all. Those kind of things terrify me. And of course, The Exorcist. I threw my Ouija board out the day I watched it, and that was it. I mean, that movie's still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean those are good picks. They really are. I enjoy. I'm very tattooed, so I love slashers. Half my arm.
There you go. Yeah.
But it's horror has a place for everyone. I think there's always a type of movie for people. If you don't like blood, that's fine. There's bloodless horror movies. You like thrillers that like with the true crime stuff, they exist, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great though. Do you call it kind of like what your first horror movie was growing up? Was it The Exorcist?
I think the Omen, The Exorcist, those were the ones that scarred me when I was a kid. But I don't think anything scarred me more than The Exorcist. Really, I like I said, that movie to this day, just play a couple chords of that music, and you're instantly down a rabbit hole of just horror.
Yeah, for me, it was Jaws. That
I was going to say that's the second one. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in probably the mid '80s. Yeah. And my sisters terrorized me because they played piano, so they always played the theme song just to scare the crap out of 3-year-old me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nobody went in the ocean again.
No, and I had the honor of talking to Carl Gottlieb, who wrote the movie.
Wow.
And he's like, "You're in the Midwest. You're Chicago. There's no oceans by you. Why are you afraid?" I go, "I was 3. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you." Yeah, it's amazing. That's why I like movies as a whole, and this is why I do the show. Talk to people like yourself, is because I like learning behind the scenes stuff as a really really indie horror filmmaker that I am myself, and just learning the field. So I know you went to college, started working with psychology, and how that kind of transitioned then into producing films and a filmmaker.
I know. I have to say, I'm glad I have that background. I use psychology every day when I'm on a set, and probably every day in this crazy business. I literally went to school, Tulane undergraduate, went to Harvard for graduate, got a degree in sex therapy, which isn't a normal thing. And boy, did that come in handy later on. And then I took that infamous year off, which I don't recommend to anybody. I took the infamous year off. What I was doing got very depressing. I was working a lot with abused and foster kids that had been sexually abused. So I needed a break to figure out what my next step was. And I don't know, I ended up writing a song by accident. It was Simon Cowell picked it up for his artist named Sunita. They were both kind of very unknown as myself, and that album ended up going top 10 all throughout the UK, and because of that, I ended up coming out to California and wrote with a group called Shalimar, which was Jody Watley, Howard Hewitt, and wrote for a guy named Engelbert Humperdinck. And I wasn't a songwriter. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I even wrote a song for a Brad Pitt movie. And I just thought, this is a joke. It was like a hobby, and I couldn't believe anybody was taking my stuff. And I needed a real job. So I got a job originally as a PA. I worked my way up. I was supposed to get married in Florida and knew I was never going back. I just thought, no, I'm staying, much to the chagrin of the man I was supposed to marry and my family. And then I just got the bug. I worked for this company. They ended up throwing me on a film set I should have never been on. And that was it. It's been in my blood for decades since.
Yeah. And I get that, a couple of years ago, because I always did stuff, I did theater and drama in high school. And then I got to college. My parents like, all right, you have to get like a real degree and get a real job. And like, okay. So I did all that stuff, put all that aside for like 15 years. And then a couple of years ago, I was invited back onto a set for indie horror in Illinois. Went there. And I'm just going, man, I thoroughly enjoy this. I miss it. I need to do more of this. And I have been running head first into everything since.
It's not for everybody, our business, but when it's in your blood, it's in your blood.
Yeah, like I said, I do IT for a living, so I don't get to be very creative in any shape or capacity with that, unfortunately. But this is my outlet. This is my way to be creative.
There you go. Well, you seem to be doing very well at what you're doing. So congrats.
Thank you. And it's amazing that how many people start off in music that end up in the entertainment industry too. It's like you have that bug and you have that itch, and just translates into your work.
It's interesting. Most people don't realize I have a music background. And during COVID, I decided, locked up, not knowing what to do, that I would do a musical short. And actually, my two leads, one was from Greece, one was from Brazil. They couldn't go back home because the borders were closed. So I ended up co-writing it with a girlfriend and figured, all right, we have 2 nights to write this. We have 4 songs in the movie. We have 1 house and foreign crew. And by the way, it's taken us up until that movie's going to finally lock next week. I finished 3 feature films in the course of this short being done.
Oh, man.
But it was only because everybody was everywhere else. So, but it'll be interesting for people to see and realize that I was a songwriter at once. And it's a total musical short. So it took me full circle back into what I did. And it's great to know I wrote again. Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a 48-hour film festival movie this upcoming weekend, which you don't have any knowledge of what you're gonna have other than your crew that you have. And we did it last year, and one of the 2 categories, one is dance and one is musical. I'm just going, I'm not creative enough to write a song, let alone to create an entire thing within 48 hours.
That's crazy. No, you shouldn't be. That's crazy. It's amazing to see what people will come up with.
And people did it. And I unfortunately it was in Detroit, so I was a couple hours away. I couldn't get to it, but I'm like, someone actually did the musical. I'm like, I don't know how the hell they did that.
Right. Yep.
And with your background, you're also working on some mini series with and some documentaries, and you kind of feel like it's come full circle for you now, since after all this time of starting off as a songwriter and then coming back to projects.
It's amazing. I love music. And so I'm lucky that I've worked with some of the biggest, even as far as doing my title songs. Like, to geek out, Bono did the title song for Traffic, which was a film that I was involved with. And I think that was probably the coolest moment ever for me, because I'm a massive U2 fan. But Lance Bass has been a friend of mine forever, and I'm about to do a movie with him, which focuses on 2 of their fans, of the NSYNC fans, that literally went on The Price is Right in order to win the RV so they could tour around the country with NSYNC. And they did it. It's still to this day the highest price payout ever for The Price is Right. And it's this crazy fandom story. And then I am incredibly lucky to have gotten the rights to John Lennon and the period of time that John and Yoko moved to America up until the time that John dies. And that will be a scripted miniseries. So, to work with Bono, to get to do John Lennon, to to, I can't wait to reach out to more and more of my music friends. And yeah, I mean, I can't say I geek out that much with actors. I geek out with musicians. I just do. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and yet it's amazing to be able to do that and work with the people that you're working with right now, that you want to work with. It's just insane to me. Like I said, I mean, some of my idols and people I want to and geek out with, but I'm just like, also they're on my set, so I have to be completely professional and
Isn't that great? Yep, it's great.
It is, and do you feel like there's been like a big resurgence of biopics and musical in cinema at this point in time? Like we've had like Complete Unknown came out.
There definitely has. Look, to see what some of the biopics in the music world have done recently in the past couple of years, and it'll be curious to see what the Michael Jackson project does too. Like I said, I happen to love them. I'm also really curious to see what Bruce Springsteen does. I'm such a Springsteen geek that, the Bob Dylan one, all of it. The hardest thing about doing a music biopic is getting the rights. There's usually so many people involved and so many lawyers involved that it can be quite difficult. But yes, it's things that I would certainly like to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about the Jackson, it must just be where I live, because I'm only about 7 miles from their childhood home.
There you go.
And my dad actually worked with their dad in the steel mills.
Amazing.
So my parents and my in-laws grew up watching them at the armory by us.
That's amazing.
So like I said, we're so used to it in this area. And we're just it's Michael Jackson's pick.
Yep.
Okay. But for everyone else, like outside of it, you just go, okay, you see it. And like I said, A Christmas Story was the next town over from me that when it took place.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just so numb to it. It's just, I can't appreciate it for what it is, because like I said, I'm just too close to it.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, yeah, that's great.
So, I mean, you've worked on your first set, and, what was that like for you? What kind of made that click? Like, was there a particular moment that was just like, okay, this is for me?
Well, that was an amazing experience, because the company that I worked for at the time wasn't exactly in the up and up. And they threw me onto this set, I think, to be the person that would take the fall if anybody realized there was a lot of money missing. And it was this like small, I think it was like a $3 million movie with Danny Aiello and Elias Koteas, and I can't even remember who was in it. And I realized that there was almost $1 million missing on that movie. And I ended up calling the Bond company in, and they said, you're either the dumbest girl or smartest girl we've ever met, but you just called the Bond company in on your own film. And I realized then that I was going to be the fall person. And I was really lucky that the actors really liked me. All the actors and everybody just banded together and said, oh my God, you're saving us, because there was $1 million missing. And I ended up bringing that movie in on time and on budget, and became known as very talent friendly. Talent started to love me. And so I've been blessed throughout the years of just having some of the biggest actors just supporting me and there for me. And so it's really helps in making movies. And again, I was just this little girl from Florida. So all of a sudden to, have the A is to A list, around me. And at the time it was like Liam Neeson and Stanley Tucci, and I can't even remember, Bruce Willis. They were all friends of mine. And agents started to really pay attention. They couldn't figure out who I was. Was I dating them? Was I going to work with them? What was happening? And the truth of the matter is nothing. I was just trying to make it, and, was blessed to have these amazing men befriend me and kind of watch out for me and go along the ride with me.
Yeah. And she disappeared. Hopefully she comes back in here. Sorry, folks. Give me one moment.
What just happened?
We lost you there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm back. I don't know what
You're
happened.
back.
I've not seen that before.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great. And, especially, like I said, me being the small indie community, and there's so much drama that can happen even in this community. I'm just going, as I like to be the guy that everyone likes, that people like to talk to, that on the night, and I'm okay with that, because it doesn't make any sense to me to burn any bridges. It pays to be.
Absolutely. Well, that goes back to the psychology and how did I use it. So I am kind of known as a set whisperer now. Inevitably, something's going to go wrong. There is never a movie that any of us have ever worked on that something wrong doesn't happen. I mean, it's only inevitable, no matter what size movie you've got a a lot of egos on a set trying to just do their job. But there's gossip, there's whispering, there's egos, there's temper tantrums, there's late night shoots, so, I've always been the kind of producer too, that just doesn't only know the talent. I want to know my grips and my electricians and my makeup artists. And, I just try to know what everybody's doing and make sure everybody's happy. And I think that's where a lot of producers screw up. A set is a lot more than just a director and actors. There's a whole crew there, and without them, we would not be able to make a movie.
Right. And I've been lucky enough on the show to have a couple set designers, production designers, because they're the unsung people that you don't see them, but you see their work.
Absolutely. The editors, the poor editor. I don't know how anybody's an editor. It's my least favorite part about making a movie. The fact that those people can watch the same scene hundreds of times to get that little minutia right. And if you don't have a good editor, you don't have a good film. Same thing with the score. And, you have a bad score in a movie, I don't care how great your movie is. Like we were talking about Jaws and The Exorcist. That was some of the greatest scores ever. You know, without that, you don't have a good movie.
Oh, for sure. And, we review horror movies in other podcasts that we do. We're just going, yeah, it's the late 70s, and this is a very serious movie, but there's like
absolutely
goofy circus music playing. I'm just going, this doesn't really fit the tone of the movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing what that sound design can do too, because like I said, I always say this, even a lack of sound is a character.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's why, it's, kudos to the unsung heroes. And I just hope that AI doesn't take half their jobs away. So I got to put it out there. I hope it doesn't, because some of these people are really heroes in making our business.
And I was going to talk to you about that too, what your stance on AI is, because, like I said, not being completely creative, I can see some usefulness in helping me say storyboard to give it to a production designer. That's how I would use it myself, but never to replace someone. And I'm just viewing this as like a new technology that in 10, 15 years, people go, well, we tried AI, it didn't work. Let's go back to people.
I'm hoping that happens, and I'm worried about kids not caring. Kids are growing up attached to their phones and attached to anything technologically driven. I look at, some of the people that work for me, be they, interns that worked for me or even my own assistant, using AI all the time. Gone are the days where I say, can you write coverage? And there's a reason I want them to write coverage, so that they understand script development. But they're handing me a ChatGPT version of coverage. And, I worry that, I saw someone today who had written his first book ever, and he literally had an unbelievable trailer that he created using 3 AI components. And I was looking at this trailer going, wait, how did you do this? And he had done it last night. It took him an hour. This is something that now is going to take, jobs away from the storyboard people and, and also music. And he just sat there and described everything he wanted. So I worry the most for editors. I worry for writers. I eventually will worry for actors too. I mean, AI is getting so good. When you look at some of these advances that are coming out in it, it's really hard to tell the difference. So much so that I worry also, will we know the difference? Even for what our own eyes are seeing, be it on the news or, or anything. I don't know if you put things side by side. I think, isn't it Netflix that just used AI in, I think, to do a lot of the special effects in a very big movie that they did. And it'll be curious. I don't think people will know the difference. And they probably saved millions by doing that.
Yeah, but I think the backlash will come into it, like, because when we look at stuff, we kind of had some preemptives with it, like with Photoshop. You go, oh, that's too perfect.
Yes.
And I think AI will have that same effect. It'll see something being too perfect in a film, in a trailer, in whatever the case may be.
I hope you're right. I mean, look, it's not all bad. The good about AI is you could be making your first movie and thinking, I don't have the money to do it. And in fact, I was just on a panel and I disagreed. If you've got an iPhone, you can make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, look, even the great, like Steven Soderbergh did it. And he did the whole thing on his iPhone. And so you can do that, add your own effects, add your own music, add whatever. And you couldn't have done that before without AI. I just am old school. I think anybody that's probably 35 and up, of which I definitely am, I want the real thing. I grew up that way. I'm a little afraid of it, probably the way my parents were when some new technology, maybe the iPhones came out then. But I hope that kids remain curious and smart. And it worries me that, are we dumbing people down because AI is going to answer every question?
Right. And I don't disagree with that, because I'm over 35 as well. And, before I had the analog childhood, digital teenage years, but I go, if I had the right papers, I didn't have a computer. I mean, there's computers, but I had to get out the encyclopedias. I had to go to the library and do the research. And there's still, I think, something to be said about the old school way, because those answers aren't always going to be accurate in an AI or chat GPT.
100%. I mean, technology has changed things. Look, it's even, do you bond more with somebody you met once over lunch or dinner, or somebody you met 10 times over Zoom? I know that if I can see you face to face in person, smell you, see you, see what you look like, see the essence of you, I'm going to bond quicker than on Zoom.
Yeah.
So, it's just technology versus not. But again, going back to your filters and stuff, I think all of these filters that kids are using and their selfies and these influencers, we've started getting people used to AI. I think the average person doesn't even know what they look like anymore. I find it interesting when people are like, oh my God, you really do look like your photos. Well, good thing,
Right.
I think we're getting people used to seeing a different version of even themselves.
Yeah. And I completely agree with that. And I got to ask about technology too. Like, I talk to people that are actors, and so much self-help, self-tapes that have come now. Do you feel like you have a bigger net when you're casting for movies of talent you're able to get now, versus everyone just sitting in the room or the hallway and waiting for hours or days?
Yes, but like I just said with Zooms, I prefer the people waiting in the hallways. I used to love meeting actors, and I would know instantly which one I wanted. The problem is now you can get 50 self-tapes from a casting director, and sometimes you're overwhelmed. And it's also not fair. You're really paying attention the first 5, maybe the first 10. You might be paying a lot of attention the last 5, but you got those 15 in the middle that by then I'm checking my emails, I'm checking my text, I'm like talking to whoever walked in, and that's not fair. Or there's been many times, even when you watch them on tape, then you go and see the people in person, you're like, ooh, this isn't what I wanted. But again, it's the way things are. The good thing is, and again, there's goods and bads with everything, is I get to see people from all over the world that wouldn't necessarily be in my hallways.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to an independent guy in Pennsylvania for his second feature film ever. I'm talking about like micro budget.
Yeah.
600 actresses applied for the lead. I'm just going, there's no way.
No.
20 years ago, you would have had that.
No. But I'm not sure you even want that. Because again, hopefully if you have a casting director on, they've wheedled things out. Problem is a lot of them don't. They just submit, and then again, you can get so overwhelmed that that's not necessarily fair either.
Right. I can see that. That's it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword at this point in time. It really is.
Definitely.
Now, Cindy, when you and your company are working on movies to produce, do you have like a selection process? How do you pick, like what projects to pick up?
So I like to stick to things that I know will work. And That being said, I like to stick to genres. So for me, I know that action movies will always work because you can turn the sound down, put them in any language around the world, and they're still going to work. And so I just had the #1 movie on HBO, which was called Cleaner, and it was Clive Owen and Daisy Ridley and Martin Campbell, who directed 2 of the James Bond movies.
Yeah.
I knew right away if I did that for a certain price, it was going to work. Same thing with Haunting Wicker Park, which is a horror movie coming out. I was fascinated with the fact that there was this gold mine of this horror story that had never been told. Most horror movies, especially haunted house movies, the house is trying to scare you out. This particular house wouldn't let the people leave. And it was so different. So, Jamie Campbell Bowers and that, we're timing that release with Stranger Things. Unfortunately, Stranger Things didn't come back for a couple of years. So my movie will come out when Stranger Things comes out later on this year. But, the next movie that I'm doing is based on squatters. It's going to scare the heck out of you guys. Not necessarily a horror, definitely thriller, more in the vein of Pacific Heights meets Cape Fear.
Okay.
But 3 of my friends had squatters. And so I thought, okay, well, let me create this story. It all takes place in a house. I can shoot this anywhere in the world that I want to shoot this with very A-list actors. And I've got 2 amazing directors that I'm choosing between right now. And so I look at movies like that. Like, again, I'm attracted to music, so I'll always do music-related stuff. I'll keep doing action. I love thrillers. I want to go back to 80s thrillers.
Yes.
If I find a good one. I love like the Fatal Attractions and, movies like that. And I'll do a biopic. If a biopic is relevant, I'll always do that. But, for me personally, I kind of stay away from comedy. It's not that I don't like it. I just find my life funnier than most comedies out there. So, for me, that I'll stay away from those.
Yeah. Stuff I'm currently working on, I'm part of Horror Dads. We're dads that make horror. So, all our stuff's that. But I'm working on some couple of shorts, and one short that I'm really excited is kind of a thriller. It's going to be during pandemic, it's a serial killer that puts the body parts of his victims in boxes that are stacked outside people's doors during the pandemic.
Oh my God. That's great.
And so I like to throw in like the social commentary into the stuff I'm currently working on. And I go, you know what? You never know, because everyone was masked up, boxes sat outside, everyone was aerosoling them.
Yep.
And I'm just taking that fear that we're past that point now and just having people unbox the parts.
That's a great idea, by the way. And you should call it Unbox. But, I think that's why Black Mirror kind of appealed to everybody, because it had that social commentary where we were all going, what the heck? That is amazing. And every single thing had some kind of commentary about it. And again, that's the movies that I pick. I want to know, even with my horror, that I can relate to it, that it's something that is going to absolutely terrify me.
Now, did you know about the haunting that happened, or with the research, you kind of like become a believer in a way with what the experience was?
Oh, I'm 100% believer. If you walk around my house, I've got crystals everywhere, and I've got every religion in my house. I have always believed in good and evil and dark energies versus not. And I myself am very psychic. Anybody who follows me on Instagram knows that I'm always doing astrological predictions, telling people what's happening, versus, be it in the planets or whatnot, so that, I'm a total believer. I try to constantly keep white light around me. And doing some of these movies scares the heck out of you. I remember a long time ago, I toyed briefly with doing a story about the man who invented or created satanic worship. And I actually said, I don't want to open this door. It was just, I don't know. Some movies deserve not to be told, at least by me.
Yeah. And I get that, like I said, I don't know if you heard of the Demon House that was in Gary that the guy from Ghost Adventures did. My parents know the priest that did the exorcism and all that stuff for it. So I'm tied to that house too now. But
did you see that the guy that was the handler for the real Annabelle doll just died with the Annabelle doll. I'm like, see, that kind of stuff I don't need to play with. I was looking at that going, no.
Yeah. And that's, I like that too. You talk about going back to 80s thriller, stuff like that too. I'm working on a short series or season of decades of horror. Where I'm going to try to try to film and follow suit the genre and look of every decade of horror, starting in the 1920s.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, some of these old movies, like The Changeling, I'm talking about, really old movies, they're still great. I mean, I just, I remember we'd probably watch that movie now and go, come on, this is ridiculous. But I remember just the ball, I think it was a basketball going down the steps, and it was such a classic horror movie. And there's, just things that you're like, oh my God. I still to this day will not sleep with a hand or a leg on the side of a bed. Just, I'm not going to do it.
My wife's the same way. She's like, if I'm under the covers, the monsters can't get me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just definitely not. There's too many monsters out there in real life. Not doing it.
Yeah, I love the horror world, and it's just great. Like I said, I think thrillers, as each point, stick with people more, because I'm not worried about running into a Jason or a Michael or a Freddy. I'm worried about movies that like keep you up at night and go, you know what? I don't need to take trash out at midnight.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I agree with you totally. Well, that's why I like these horror movies. I mean, they're, way back when I had taken a break in my career, I actually retired for a little bit. And when I came back, I wanted to be the first person to put YouTube stars in a movie. Nobody had done it. And I was just so curious if these people like Shane Dawson that had, millions and millions of followers could attract them into a movie theater. For me, I realized I didn't want to work with YouTube stars anymore. It was challenging because nobody had ever seen it either. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, can they act? But Smiley was interesting. It was kind of a play on, I believe in Mary Worth or Candyman or all these things, except that people would look into a screen and say, I believe in the lulz, which was laughing out loud. And this smiley faced man would come and kill whoever was on the other side of the screen. And nobody believed it was true. So kids in colleges were cracking up laughing until they realized it was true. But it was fascinating to see where that movie went. By the way, it got 36 million downloads. We actually beat the Avengers that year. We made that whole movie for 250,000. Oh, wow. And it was the smallest movie I ever made. And still to this day, people are like, are you going to do Smiley too? And what's most interesting about Smiley, and if you or your viewers ever looked at the Smiley mask, you would go, oh, wait, I've seen that. The Smiley mask alone gets millions of views of people trying to figure out how to make it. It was fascinating to me. The bad thing was a lot of YouTube stars, their followers don't pay to go into theaters. They rip things off. So that's the good and the bad. We got 36 million downloads and probably 20 million were ripped off.
Yeah.
Pirated. So that's the bad of it.
Yeah. I mean, Smiley is a fantastic movie. I enjoy creepypastas because that's what you grew up with. I was born, in the 80s, grew up around with Are You Afraid of the Dark and the campfire stories. But I also grew up watching Twilight Zone. And that's a big inspiration for a lot of my stuff. And that's why I like the social commentary, because Twilight Zone was all about that. Twilight
Zone was one of my favorite. And I don't know if do you remember Night Gallery? Because that was the other one. Yep. Mm-hmm. They were both great. I mean, still to this day, I can remember some of the Night Gallery stories. But yeah, I'm like, I was like you. I still, one day I need to do a proper different vampire movie like that. I think vampires still, there's got to be different ways to tell that story. Zombies, not so much for me, but vampires, 100%. I don't understand zombies, but vampires are just sexy and great. I don't know. Lost Boys still is one of my favorites. It was great.
Oh yeah, I have plans for a vampire movie. Writing one. We are actually doing our first non-found footage version of a vampire movie.
There you go.
The old school vampire lore, but I want to go like old school Southern plantation vampire.
Oh yeah.
And just the rich history that exists especially in the South, and the cultural significance of vampires down there too. I know Sinners did it,
but in New Orleans, so I know all that. In fact, when I went to Tulane and I was going to school in New Orleans, a lot of people don't realize that Anne Rice at that time went very dark. She went into the satanic world, and she bought all of the churches and converted them into houses of satanic worship. It was a really dark period, and New Orleans will always be like just such a great place to film. It's just terrifying. What was that? Was it called Angel Heart? That really great horror movie
with De Niro. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Was that? It was great.
yeah. Yeah, it's there's so many stories to tell. Like I said, I wrote something last year that I talked about an old French pagan god,
Oh wow.
which there's not anything ever about French pagan gods in movies.
That's
So I took that lore of like the Michigan area and applied it to that. I'm like, hasn't been done. I'm gonna do it.
That's great. Any of those movies that haven't been done, are just, it's amazing when you find those kernels, like The Haunting of Wicker Park. The fact that nobody had made that story was just shocking to me.
Mhm.
So there are those gems out there. It's just so hard to find them. But if you find those, send them to me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I have the show. I'm going to be starting another show here soon. I'll say it now, but I want to talk to people about what they think the underrated horror movies are,
Yeah,
and just bring them to light, and stuff like
absolutely.
that, and get the unknowns out there,
Oh
because
yeah.
I think everything needs to be seen, because that's the only way movies can ever get better, is you have to look at them and analyze them, and I think that's
Oh
what
yeah.
movies are there to do.
Definitely.
So
Definitely. No, I love them.
yeah. All right, Cindy. Well, we are approaching the end of the show. We have some couple wrap-up questions for you, though.
Okay.
I gotta ask, as producer, practical or CGI?
I'm a practical girl, but again, I'm old school. I'm always about building. CGI, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it said we've done over 100 episodes. Only 2 people have ever said CGI.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you go? How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So one does CGI for a living, so that makes sense.
There you go.
The other
Okay,
one
I get it.
the other
That
was
they should
Bruce.
support themselves.
Yeah, the other was Bruce Valanche, and I was very
Wow.
surprised by his response to that. I'm like,
Yeah. Why did he say that?
no idea. He's like, okay. I'm like, I never expected that from you, Bruce,
Yeah.
but okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Cindy, if you could work and someone bring to you, like you talk about vampires, stuff like that, is there any IP or franchise that you'd want to work in that you haven't worked in?
Not really. Like I said, I would like to do more music stuff. I would honestly, it's so hard to get some of these biopics, but
Mhm.
I'm a classic rock girl. So if I, can bring some of my idols to the screen, that, I'm just a kid. I'm like a geek, with that. And I just love my classic rock. I just got back from London last night, so excuse the circles under my eyes, but the first night I was there, I landed and had meetings all day. And again, I hadn't slept, which seems to be a theme of myself. And then I realized that Cat Stevens, Neil Young, and Van Morrison were playing in Hyde Park across the street from where I was. And so with zero sleep, I ran there to see like these rock gods. I mean, it was incredible. And, to do any of their life stories would be a dream come true for me.
Yeah. I don't disagree. There's so many things that IPs I would love to work on,
Yeah.
or things I like to make. There's a video game from the 90s called Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I think it'd be funny.
Wow.
I think it'd be funny, goofy horror comedy, just to do something fun like that. But
Well,
I
I'd
can't.
always wanted to also, there's some great classic, again, we're going to the 80s. I think they were the 80s. They might have been even the 70s. That really do need to be redone, like The Hunger. If you probably watch The Hunger now, you would think, what is this? It's one big music video, but a lesbian vampire movie? Are you kidding me? I would love to get my hands on that. That was so ahead of its time. Same thing with Cat People, if you remember the original one. I mean, genius.
Oh,
Genius. They tried to remake that, but not right. There's movies like that I would really like to get my hands on and remake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cat People was one of my wife's favorite remakes, though, from the 90s. She also really enjoyed Invasion of the Body Snatchers from the 90s. I go,
oh yeah,
I prefer the original and the 70s one myself.
Me too.
All right, so Cindy, any advice for people getting into the producing filmmaking world?
The only thing that I can say is you have to be passionate. This is a tough business, and the average story will take you probably a good 2 years to ever bring to fruition. And so find a story that you're passionate about. Find one that you think commercially will work. I can't tell you how many times people come to us and say, we have a story about our sick uncle that, you know, has this incurable disease, and we have a television star from the 90s attached that no one's ever heard of. That's not going to get you anywhere. Find something that you think is commercial that you yourself would pay money to go see, or that you would flip on and spend the next 2 hours watching. And if you're passionate about it, go for it. And again, like I said before, if you have an iPhone, you can make a movie. And especially now, a lot of people don't realize, everybody talks, Netflix, but the number 1 streaming service right now is YouTube. So anybody can get their movie out there. And that's very different than when I was coming up. So go for it.
Yeah, I like it. It's true. You know, I've heard the statistic. I know it's true. Like 1 of every 100 scripts get made into a movie, and most people don't realize it's a lot of work to make a movie. It really is.
And a lot of people don't forget that once the camera stopped rolling, you got another 6 months of being able to edit that movie, put the music in properly, and deliver it. And a lot of people also forget, I got to deliver it all around the world. So I got to deliver it in different languages to different countries. I got a lot of unions to deal with if I'm lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on how you look at it, to make a union movie. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of hurdles that you have to get through.
Yeah, as someone that has made subtitle files for our movies, I'm just going, this is hard work.
It's hard work. It's really hard work.
Yeah, just even the subtitle, just to submit it to Amazon or Netflix. It's just the quality test they have to do for it is just absurdly difficult.
It's absurd. Things that nobody would ever think about.
Yeah, and I'm just going I looked at mine, like, I think mine's pretty good, and I see other people do it, and like, and that past quality, but mine did.
Right? I know. Isn't it crazy?
It is. So Cindy, before you go off, where can people find you, learn everything about you and your upcoming works?
Sure. Couple of places. I have a website, which is www.cowan.com. My Instagram is the easiest to get me, which is Cindy Cowan and the number 1000. Facebook is just my name. I was going to say Twitter. That ages me. X is also Cindy Cowan 1000, and YouTube is just my name. So I'm everywhere, and LinkedIn also. I'm never on it, but I need to be.
I don't use LinkedIn anyway for even my.
I don't either. And some people are like, "Oh my God, we followed you on LinkedIn. You didn't follow us back." I literally go on LinkedIn every now and then to see if I need to follow some people back, but. Yeah, it's not something I use. Sorry, LinkedIn. I think we're cutting them down. I love you guys.
That's all good. Awesome. Well, Cindy, thank you very much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. And for anyone new here who's watching this live or after the fact, follow me and all social media at Pod Out at Night to look at all this great stuff I have planned, working on, and I'm just going to be busy for the foreseeable future with all these stuff I'm running. So, all right. Well, thank you. You have a good night, and don't get lost in the void. All right. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.